Vinita, I think I'll start with you, if I may. I mean,
most of the questions would be for both of you.
Yeah. So we've clearly got a lot of, greatly improved governance these days. It's been a real whirlwind year for that kind of stuff. But post GDPR, have things really changed? Have you seen a difference in the business and the way you work?
Well, you presented, I think, 8 of the things that we've seen, right? From data transparency to what we need, to what agencies should be showing us, et cetera. I think we've gotten all of that, but that's kind of become the hygiene, I would say. I think the questions that we are moving on to now is, how does it all kind of impact, the value that I'm adding to the consumers, or how does it change my media plan? Or, what is going to change in the experience that I'm having with the consumers? So I think the conversation is now kind of moving from, okay, we've got all this, and now, the number 8, how do we kind of, impact the user experience the best? So I think for us, it's like those questions are kind of more important now, and more, we're asking those questions.
So the great thing from that, if I understood it right, is that those table stakes are understood now and are done.
Yeah.
Yes, sort of.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Sam, same for you? Or?
I think from a context point of view, I would say that the businesses are quite confused about the data privacy implications on their businesses. So the last 10 years as marketers, agencies, and this industry, we've been saying, let's give the consumer the right message, the right content at the right time. And the way we've been doing that is by understanding them. And so as an industry, we've got better and better at doing that. And as you know, if you're good at doing that, your sales go up. So now with the data privacy issues, the business is saying, okay, well, what does that mean for that model? Because how do you know when the right time is for a consumer if you don't know what they want? So what I do like is that we give the consumer the choice. Do you want to know about me or not? Because in our business, in Standard Chartered, and also previous companies I've been at, I do know that I would say 70% of people do want you to know about them if they trust you. So trust is the first word a brand needs to build. And then the second criteria is you use that data really wisely. And what we found in the last couple of years is if you don't use data wisely, they actually get angry. They're like, we gave you all this data, you know my age, you know who I am, why am I getting a lipstick ad? And they get angry at that because that's called spam. So as an industry, we've kind of eradicated that dirty word called spam, but it will come back the less data you have. So how do we navigate that fine line is going to be critical.
I think this is... Will I come back to life? Can you hear me? Yeah. I think this is going to be critical. I mean, we don't seem to have worked out the dividing line yet between targeting, relevance, and creepiness.
Yeah.
That was obviously just an experimentation, but with the VPN on to a British channel the other night at home, and the commercials were calling my name out. And that just made me jump out of my shoes. That wasn't welcome. So I think, we still got too much going on the wrong side of creepy. Has it changed the way you think about how you craft your...
Well, I think, he touched upon the data. I think, one of the most important things that has happened or is going to happen after post-GDPR is data, right? I mean, we are looking at data shrinking from first-party perspective and also from third-party perspective. So, there's going to be a bit of cleaning up that's going to happen. And I kind of see almost like a temporary hiccup happening, right? And we probably going back to a macro level data, to your point, and going, in the dangers of really spamming the consumers. And how do you then, therefore, really make sure that all the experiences that you're delivering, they're not only innovative or good, but they are really, the right ones. So I think the focus on the right experience or the user experience really increases because, here you're kind of going back to the basics again, right? Till the time you find a foot in it and, you come back to a better quality data, but I would think the data would remain, I think it would shrink in the future,
So just to, at its simplest then, to be clear, so we're talking about because of the European regulations. We're now asking permission before we collect people's data, before we retarget them, before we use those for lookalikes. And you're therefore getting fewer people, but better people? Or is
Probably
it
better,
quality?
but you know, from a brand building perspective, and you and me are not in like, you know, a performance business.
Yes.
We are FMCGs, you know, CPG business, where we are looking at scale, right? So this is going to be an issue, I would say, moving forward. I don't know how much of it, but you know, we would look at a shrinkage happening, definitely.
I think very practically, sitting in Europe, we are of course tracking the impact within the European markets. And I must say, in the first 2.5, 3 months that we have been tracking impact, we don't see any significant drop in results from advertising, okay, when it comes to GDPR. And you should be aware that we are preparing for GDPR for the past 2 and more years now, right, to be ready. So we don't see much negative impact of GDPR on advertising per se. Where we are seeing some drops because of double consent that we need to ask for in some of the markets is in, for example, calls to the call centers, etc. But so far it's been quite positive. And as we started with saying, it is in the interest of consumers, and we all are consumers, right? So it's being done with the interest of all of us.
I think that's the important point. To me, it doesn't matter whether or not you've asked someone's permission to use their data. If they don't realize you've done that, you're still spamming them.
Yeah.
Because
That's the sad part, yes.
yeah, so I mean, you know, I'm sure we're all, you know, we unsubscribe angrily to things that we never think we've subscribed to all the time, right? But at half of those cases, I bet that we have inadvertently agreed to it.
I just want to add a point in terms of changes that's going on we see from a banking perspective. I think from a marketing and industry point of view, step one is really showing consumers what value they'll get if they share their data with you. Mm-hmm. We didn't have to do that for the last 10 years. We just took that data. So in a marketer's job, you're going to have to communicate to your consumer and convince them, actually, I'm going to do a really good job for you, and I'm going to add value to your life. And when we discuss this with our customers, that the way they describe it is quite interesting. They're saying, can you guide me to things that you'll know I may like? That's the statement they use. Can you guide me to things that you know, because you have your data, that I may like? There's two things in that statement. One, you've got to craft. You've got to craft something for me. So as an industry, we've got to spend time crafting something for the customer. Now, that's great for all of us in this room. Why is that? Is we relied too much on machines before. We relied on machines to do this hyper-targeting. And what it missed was the craft, and the craft of the tonality of that person, who that person is. So I got lots of ads for overweight, middle-aged men. And I'm like, wow. Like, that's really, it's true, but was it crafted? You know, it didn't have finesse.
I think they've got us confused.
But that's what I mean by humans are back in the picture now. It's not just machines. We went wild over machine learning and AI on, oh my God, but actually you need humans in that crafting, and everyone in this room is very important in that area. The second is that as an industry, we don't just craft the advertising or the offer or the message. Companies have to craft the product, right? You can't just have all this crafting and then you offer the same product as everyone else, because that actually is not personalization, and that's fake, right? So companies now are realizing if we can take that data back from the media about these people and start crafting products and content for them, wow, that takes your brand to a different level.
So Sam, when I hear a precision marketer in a finance institution talking like this about the public, I mean, I find it really comforting when, you know, if you're in an agency and you're worried about the future of storytelling and how precision marketing's killing it, data's killing it. No, it's not. I think it's just changing the rules of engagement and how you use it. I'd be really, I mean, I didn't ask you to prepare this, but if you've got, has anyone got any examples of using data to tell better stories yet? Are you starting to see this come through?
You know, I mean, if we want to succeed post-GDPR, like he says, you know, we have to look at data differently. There is enormous amount of data out there, but if you do not make stories out of that data or connect or, you know, ask the right questions, the data is really not going to do anything for us, right? At the end of the day, we need to take this data and, as you said, to inform the experiences that we are going back to the consumer with. And, you know, whenever we do that, that personalization to me, you know, speaks volumes. And whenever you are not, you're just kind of taking the data and, you know, just putting ads out there, which doesn't really make sense or connect with the audiences, that's where you lose the game. So I think it's a very, very important, you know, point to consider when you're building stories. And yeah.
You know, it's an interesting storytelling fact in that often in, say, very affluent countries in Asia, you do a promotion on free luggage, and it goes wild, man. Like, and everyone's like, why does everyone love all this luggage? Or like a half price at a movie? Like, everyone's got enough money for that. And when we sort of dug deeper into what's going on, and if you look at places like Hong Kong or Singapore or Shanghai, where there is a lot of affluence, what happened was as marketers pretended everyone was affluent. And you had the typical imagery of a rich person on a boat, or, you know, rich people just being happy. And the data was showing us, actually, that's not what they're buying. And the insight was, the affluent don't think they're affluent. They've still got dreams, hopes, worries. They want to maintain lifestyle. They've got kids. Often in our countries in the world, you've got mum, dad, and the kids in the same place. And so what we realized, the data sort of opened up that consumer to what they needed more than what we were showing them. So I guess that's from a banking perspective. We then make sure we crafted the right offers and the products for those people who had those concerns.
Yeah, I think that having all those numbers around does make you rethink who you're targeting. Has it changed much for you?
Well, I think we are, for example, we have a big mother and child care portfolio.
Yeah.
We are working with groups to understand what are their requirements in the first 1,000 days, you know, that you have had a baby. And then we are creating products and services, apps, or whatever you call them, customized towards that 1,000-day experience that our consumers want to have. When you talk about content, the fact that we are able to create different versions of content and then test those against live audiences in the digital ecosystem and modify that piece of content to make sure, again, that they appeal to the audience and then put it out to larger audiences is, again, using data and technology to be able to bring customized experiences.
So are you all using the machines that some of the agencies or some of the digital partners have? You can basically put a 30-second commercial in and get 50 short digital ads coming out the other end? Or is it more of a considered process?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think we are moving towards the era of more Vogon, or I would say more direct to mix, and, you know, kind of trying to understand if you have a proposition. So, for example, if you have, you know, a brand that we are launching, or which is kind of unique experience for you know, a consumer, how then can we learn from different kind of consumers and kind of tweak that experience for each one of them? You know, we're doing that for, we just launched something called Nutella Unique. So, you know, we have like millions of jars which are different,
yes,
right? And how are we connecting that to each person's experience? Because we feel each person is unique, and, you know, each person kind of get to experience that jar differently. So I think that's like the beauty of, you know, like you said in the beginning, the right message at the right time for the right person, right? So it feels personalized, but there's scale in it, right? Yeah.
Great. And just wanted, I don't want to miss the chance to talk to you about the agency model.
Yeah.
So, you know, when we were preparing for this, we talked a lot about what sort of experiments we're doing with agencies and new ways of working. I was sharing how if you're a manufacturer like we are, you bring your factory mentality to it sometimes. So you go in a Unilever office, there's hold the handrail signs on every handrail, because in a factory that saves lives, right? But in an ad agency, that's kind of weird. And so I was asking Sam how they were dealing with in-housing, and I love this answer.
Yeah, so because we're a bank and we take data so seriously, our agencies aren't actually allowed in our offices. So we have to sort of have special rooms outside our offices for external people. Now that's a good thing, right? Because you don't want to have a brand or a bank that you're dealing with that doesn't take data privacy seriously. But what it means is two things for everyone in this room, I guess, two takeaways. One, the people that are going to succeed are going to be people that can pull cross-functional teams, lots of agencies, lots of analytics, lots of tech, and find opportunity. I'm really seeing there's a lack of those type of people. The people that are finding opportunity. Everyone's waiting in the room, tell us what to do. And it doesn't need the media agency to find a media idea. The media agency can find a creative idea. Analytics finds a brand idea. There's a real cross-pollination. But be a leader in finding opportunity, and the cash flow will come.
It's getting a lot of nodding.
You know, like I think Seethal mentioned earlier, right, that you have a lot of specialist agencies now, and then you have us, you know, orchestrating that specialist agency, a lot of them in the room. But I think I really relate to that. There's not one person who's kind of cutting across everything and trying to make sense of it all, right? And that kind of falls on us as marketeers, and it's hard. You know, with so many, you know, partners in the room. So I think the more the partners get to talk to each other and you know, have a wholesome kind of, I would say, conversation, you know, pick those big insights, that's really needed, and that's not there right now.
I'm glad you both mentioned it, because we're seeing the same thing. And it's, by the way, it's not just anyone working in an agency, it's for us as well as marketers. You know, we're having to learn to not try to be the best in the room, but the best when we leave the room to compete in the market. And it's a very different mindset. And you know, to try to kind of leave your guns at the door, or whatever the metaphor is, and you know, stop trying to compete around every table you're at is counterintuitive sometimes, but it's a great change. I'm enjoying it.
I am. Yeah.
So any last thoughts that you'd like to leave our audience with today?
The key for me is the value is going to come from the human impact of crafting something for consumers. Don't rely on machines. The finesse, the taste of what you put around an offer product is actually what the customer loves. That you've taken time to craft something for them. You can do that at scale, but that's the secret for me for the success.
Vanita?
Well, I would say it's almost like a balance. So we do need humans first, to think about, you know, what are the key things, or, you know, what is it that we are trying to answer, and then really use the tech and the, you know, everything else that we have in this, which is increasing by the day, to really optimize and deliver that experience in the best possible manner. So it's almost like, you know, really marrying these two in the best possible manner. You know, that's going to change the game, yeah.
Fantastic. And Seethal, you've come the furthest.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think what I would like us as an industry to focus on is talent. And by that, I mean that we shouldn't focus all our energies while creating talent in getting most people who are tech savvy. It's about the human element, the creative element. We also need to balance the technology aspect of the industry with talent who really think both from their brains and feel from their heart, and then come up with something that's really helping us create experience for our consumers. So I think that balance in talent creation over a period of time is really important.
If I can
Second last word.
Yes. I would say storytelling. You know, like, I think we have to really go back to telling that story through data, through content, and I think that storytelling has never been so important that it is today. You know, it's really, really, that's the crux, yeah.
So in the modern language of the internet, it's all about the assets, right?
All about content.
Fantastic.
Content was king, is king or queen, and will continue to be so.
Great. I think we're out of time question-wise, so we're going to have to end it there. So I'm sorry we didn't have time for questions from the floor, but thank you for a fascinating conversation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.